Hello, everybody. I'm Madame Sensei. I teach Spanish, French, and Japanese to high schoolers out here in the beautiful Pacific Northwest, although it's a bit rainy today. And I'm thinking my way through the Harvard Project Zero thinking routines. You can reach me at Minecraft Education Ambassadors or the Minecraft Teacher Lounge, the Duolingo Educators Network, or at studio-nemo.com. Now, this one, we are finally in synthesizing and organizing ideas. This one is my very favorite of all the thinking routines. This is my go-to when the kids are yawning, their eyes are glazed over, they're just not paying attention. It's been a long day, whatever. This is the one I go to. Okay. Again, the thinking routines are located right here. And let me show you how I changed this one up for the World Language Classroom. This is the +1 routine. It is a routine for identifying important ideas worth remembering. And I didn't underline remembering. That's some artifact of my copy paste program. Didn't like that word, but this is the key word right here. Okay, remembering is the key concept because in world language, it's all about remembering. We've got to get the students to put items from their short-term memory into their working memory, shuffle it back, shuffle it into their long-term memory. We want them to encode everything in long-term memory. So this is a really good routine for building memory muscle. We always talk about memory muscle, even though memory isn't really a muscle. We talk about it like that. There's the initial recall, which isn't your working memory, right? After you lecture, you read aloud, you do some TPRS, keep it to 10 minutes or less, and then you do the initial recall, which is you have the students write down what they remember. They can write down a list, they can write complete sentences, they can write down words, they can write phrases, they can doodle, they can sketch note, however they want to dump that information onto a piece of paper. And, it can be a combination of all these, okay? Encourage them to experiment with different styles because you never know what's going to work for each student, and you never know what's going to work for this student at 9 a.m. in the morning, but at 9:35 it doesn't work for them anymore. Just encourage them to be flexible, all right? And just however it comes out of their brain, it comes out of their brain. Okay, so the +1 section, you've had everyone write down something. Hey, I just gave you a lecture, and I'll show you in a moment how it works. I just gave you a lecture. Write down everything you remember from the lecture. All right, now pass the paper one person to the right or to the left. You choose, okay? Keep it consistent for the game that you play with this, all right? So she passes her paper to him, he passes his, but in the next round, they're going to keep going in this direction. You don't want them going backwards, okay? Students are going to read over what their buddy gave them and then add one thing. What is it that this person didn't remember on the paper that you remembered? Add it. Okay, then you pass on to the next person. What is it that this person and this person didn't remember on that paper? You add it, okay? The recommendation is that you go 2 times and then it goes back to the original person. Heck, I could do this for 15 minutes. I mean, I do this for a long time, and I'll show you what I do with it, okay? So depending on what you've taught or your time constraints, you might go longer. All right, so I switch it up. I'm not just doing what did you forget. All right. So this is examples of what I do. So the first student did the memory dump. And look, they got the word, we were reading a TPRS story. Okay. So with all the school supplies, this is like the second day of school. They didn't remember una goma. They wrote una doma. Okay, they're halfway there. That's fine. They didn't remember boligrafo. They wrote baligrafo. That's fine. That's close enough right now. This is great for the second, third day of school. Okay. So, I'll have the next person add a word. What did they forget? Okay, well, this person added a couple words that this person forgot. All right. And then I say, for the third person, I'll usually do something like, take one of those words and draw a doodle. Okay, so memory is visual and spatial. So if I can get them to start doodling and sketchnoting, I can get them to remember better. All right. For this one, I said, they did a doodle, but then they had to say what the doodle was. I don't know why. Okay, they did that. Fine. And then here's another example. And then I'll say, okay, take any 2 words that you see on the paper in front of you and write a sentence. Doesn't matter if the sentence was in the story, just take 2 words and put them together. Okay. Oh, this person remembered a whole sentence from the story. That's good. We're writing a story about Duo has some school supply that, and then I let them choose the other Project World character wants, and the whole thing about trying to like give Duo something that he would trade his school supply for. It was a good way to introduce school supplies. Yeah, so here, same kind of thing. These were all from the same thing, I think. Okay. So they had to write a sentence, and so this is going to stretch the passing out to 4 or 5 times, not just the 2 or 3 times that they recommend. While the students are doing this, I'm formatively assessing how much are they engaged in the doodling, how much are they engaged in the writing, how much are they engaged in the sentence writing, and so I can add or remove rounds depending on how into it they are and how much I think they remember. Okay, if as I'm walking around I see they're not writing too much, it's time to call the game over. If they're writing a lot, then I'm going to keep it going for a while because there's a lot I can do with this. Okay, let's see if there's anything else interesting in these that I took. This one had this whole little story written out. Me when I learned Spanish, happy. That was a good one for me to randomly choose and copy, right? So yeah, the doodling is important. The sentence writing is important. I'm going to give you a bunch of ideas for all that. Okay. The final phase is act. So papers are returned to the original authors. And again, in the original thing, you're just going like 2 times, then goes back to the original author. The original author rereads. And the original author, hey, you've just looked at other people's papers. You know, I've got my students in groups of, at the moment, I've got one class with 36 students. So students are in groups of 6 per table group. So by the time it gets back to the original author, it's been around 6 other people. Okay. So I say, all right, is there anything you saw in 6 other sheets? And, you know, if we go longer, if we go 10 rounds, that's 10 times. If we go 3 rounds, it's only 3 times. But is there anything you saw in any of those other papers that you want to add to your paper? And the students think I'm grading these. I'm not grading these. They're entirely formative assessment. Oh my gosh, students, if you're watching this, I don't want you to know that. But it's entirely formative assessment for me, okay? It's how much are the students remembering. These do not go in the grade book whatsoever, okay? It's all a memory trick. Everything we do in my class is a memory trick, okay? So the first student rereads, and they've got things now in their working memory that they didn't have before. It's their opportunity to add it to their paper, thus reinforcing it. Okay. This is a pretty energetic thing to do, but on the rare occasions that my class is really sleepy, I'll say, you leave the paper at your desk, get up and move one person to the right. So you can leave the papers there and have everybody get up and move around the room if you need to wake them up. But I don't have a problem. And one time I've done that. All right, so now let's talk about if you're teaching grammar explicitly with this. You've got some pop-up grammar lesson, grammar translation method, the audiolingual method, and you're looking at transformation drills, you're doing community language learning, and you're dissecting a script that your class wrote, or you're working straight out of your textbook. This is absolutely perfect for teaching grammar. And let me show you what I do with it. So, you know, I teach French and Spanish, and in those early stages of the school year, it's hard to explain how adjectives have to match nouns. What do adjectives do? They match nouns. So if your noun is feminine, your adjective has to say, hey, the noun is feminine. If your noun is plural, your adjective has to say, hey, the noun is plural. So I've experimented with 100 million ways of doing this, and really, this is my go-to method, okay? So we need to chunk and chew, as we say. You're going to lecture for like 2 minutes, and then do this little thing, okay? And then lecture for 2 more minutes, and then do this little thing. And then, you know, and play with it, lecture, have a game, then do the +1. Lecture, have a little mini game, do the +1, okay? That way the students get the drill and kill that they desperately need, okay? But it's not boring because they're rereading their friends' papers and you switched it up, okay? So I tell the students, first of all, this is French, okay? Knee-jerk reaction, if you don't know what to do, but you need to match a feminine noun, add an E, okay? And then we play with this a little bit. Maybe on whiteboards, maybe just I'll have the students write on their own, okay? Mini whiteboards, I like mini whiteboards, okay? So here's a bunch of words, we just add an E, we go over the pronunciation, everything. Okay, and then I have them take out a piece of paper, write the steps to make an adjective match a feminine noun. Okay, they should all be able to write something about adding an E at that point. Okay, is there already an E? Okay, leave it alone. And then I give them a bunch of examples, and we play with these. Okay, and then does accent aigu count as an E? No, it does not. Normally I have these covered so the students can guess. All right, and then we play with this, usually on mini whiteboards. Okay. And then I have them write on their paper again. Okay, does an E, if there's already an E on the end, what do you do? Okay, if there's an accent aigu, if there's an accent on top of that E, does it count as an E? Okay, and then I'll have them start doing the +1 routine, which really keeps it in their long-term memory. Okay, so when you're teaching literature, culture, history, art, you're listening to music, you've got a recipe you're looking at. I really like doing this when we're doing our TPRS stories or any other story I'm reading aloud to the class. Okay, when I'm teaching a song also, I'll do it. So first of all, I have them grab a sheet of paper, and especially if I think that their eyes are glazing over during the story. Okay, but TPRS is so important. I really love it. But after, the students kind of get into the routine and they know that class is going to begin with a TPRS story, after a couple of months, there will be some students starting to check out and just kind of mindlessly parrot it back. And so I'll do TPRS for, 5 minutes, and then I'll realize, okay, students are checking out. Grab a piece of paper, prenez un feuille de papier, or, saquen una hoja de papel, whatever I want to tell them. All right, and then I have them information dump everything you remember about the story. Up to this point, everything you remember, okay? So they write it all down, and then I start the +1 routine and pass it one person to the right, okay? And I don't let them talk while they're writing it down. If I have to make them think it's a test, fine, they think it's a test, okay? All right, so then I'll have them pass one to the right or one to the left, just a random thing, okay? Write down one word the previous person forgot, or the previous people forgot, and I'll do that 2 or 3 rounds. Okay, and then I'm going to keep going in that direction. If I said one to the left, it's going to stay left. Okay, it's never going to backtrack. All right, then I'll have them doodle, because memory is visual and spatial. And the doodling is going to help them remember the words. It also tells me which words they know. Okay, and then I'll say, here's a sentence frame. The sentence frame coming straight out of the TPRS. Choose one of the words that is on the paper and plug it into that sentence frame. Okay. Write a word that did not appear in the story. Okay, this is great because in the TPRS, we're always circling stuff. Okay, Duo does not have an orange piece of paper. All right, so they can write a word that doesn't appear in the story. And then write a sentence using the negative about that word. Well, making the negative in French is pretty complicated, so that's really good practice. Choose any 2 words on the paper and make a sentence. This is great. They can just try connecting words. And I don't even care if it, as I look these over, if they're not grammatical, what I really care about is the student playing with the language. Okay. Use more than, less than. Choose 2 words and write a sentence. Okay. If you want to get the comparatives in there, or any grammar structure you're working on, put it into this. Okay. And then I give it back to the original owner. Is there anything you saw in the other papers that you want to add to yours? Okay. All right. Now turn it in. And then the students think I'm grading this, so they really want to make it perfect and everything, but I never tell them it's not being graded. It's for me to look at. I tell the students all the time, every test a teacher gives you is a test for the teacher so they can know if they're teaching correctly. All right, so in our next episode, circles of action. Hope to see you there.